Hey everybody, it's the second live today, and I'm doing it because I'm quite inspired to share some material and emotions and experiences that I feel would be beneficial for you. I was actually thinking today about what constitutes an emotionally intense person or a woman, and my understanding is the following. So I want to share this with you. If this doesn't resonate, that's okay. I'd like to hear your perspective as well. I feel partially the emotional intensity comes from our deep and high sensitivity that we are basically born with. So I think most emotionally intense people, hey Catherine, most emotionally intense people were basically born as highly sensitive people. The other part of emotional intensity that can sometimes be either helpful or challenging in life, I think, how are you? Comes from upbringing. And I'm going to explain to you what I've learned from my own personal experience and from working with clients of how emotional intensity develops in life. So I'm going to be looking at some notes just so I don't lose my train of thought, because a lot of times I just go to different topics. So the most important part for everybody to understand is something that I've discovered only last year. I didn't know this, and it's really an essential part of psychology, which says that from when you're born until the age of 7 or 8, you are basically 100% sponge. That's like a metaphor I will use now. And what does that mean? It basically means that you are absorbing all the emotions, patterns, behaviors around you without any logic, rationalization, or filtering. So that's why I equate that to a sponge, because a sponge doesn't really choose what it's going to absorb. You put it anywhere where there's water, it's going to absorb, or any kind of liquid is going to absorb it. There's no filter that says in the sponge, oh, no, I don't like this kind of liquid, so I'm not going to absorb it. I think this is really key to understand why we have a lot of unhealed childhood trauma around the world that people are unaware of. By being unaware of the time and place where this trauma initiated, people are also unaware of how to heal it. A lot of trauma that's been based at that time, from 0 to 7, can't be really healed with will or mental power, which a lot of therapies, a lot of coaching really propagates. And that's just painful to that, inner child that's still alive amongst many of us, because it needs something else. So what I want to talk about is specifically about emotionally intense women is that we absorbed these patterns and behaviors and ways of relating from our parents, who in most cases weren't like super emotionally mature, and even to the point of super emotionally illiterate. What does this mean? So this means that, for example, maybe they didn't encourage your self-expression, your emotional self-expression. So whenever you expressed any emotion, they would somehow silence you or tell you to go to your room or tell you you're overwhelming or to calm down. Whatever, it was just a negation instead of a validation of your emotion. And as a child, from probably 0 to 5 or 6, even 7, A lot of children can't control their emotions, and that's normal. They are learning this. It's a learning curve. But if during this learning curve, they are told too early to start controlling their emotions and to embody the behaviors of parents. So, oh, you can't act like that, you're too much of a baby. So the child immediately listens to that and starts to behave how the parent wants. What happens then? Basically, that's the beginning of self-sabotage. Inadvertently. I'm sure 100% no parent does it on purpose. And no child chooses to self-sabotage on purpose. However, in order to satisfy the parent and be accepted in the family unit, which for a child means equals life, they will sacrifice anything, including their own emotions and their own needs. Because family rejection for a child equals death. That's basically as black and white it gets for kids up until the age of 7 and 8. So, what do you think a child chooses? They choose life, right? Which means for the moment they are safe, for the moment they still belong to that family unit, yet this is the beginning of a creation of an emotionally intense person who is told from early on to suppress and deny their own emotions, which means that they are basically piled up from the moment you're born to all the way while you're growing up. So this is not something you choose consciously. I want you to know that, and I don't want anyone to feel responsible for this. I don't want anybody to feel ashamed of this. I don't want anybody to feel bad about this. This is normal children behavior. So, what happens when you grow up with these emotions that were suppressed for so long in so many different ways? And I can go in other videos of how parents actually tell you to suppress your emotions, which you actually inadvertently continue to do later in your life. So what happens? These emotions pile up and they are growing and growing and growing inside of you. And at one point, a situation in your life, a trigger comes, and it's just like a, what do you say, when you light a fire, like a little, you light a fire with that little trigger, and the whole, demon of your inner emotional, landscape erupts. That is normal. I also want to tell you, that is more than normal. And this eruption is not trying to sabotage you at all. It's trying to heal you. This emotions that are not being quiet anymore and that are erupting are trying to show you areas of yourself that need to be healed. So I really don't want you to judge yourself for having something we call overreactions or overwhelming reactions that other people reject, judge. I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to accept this outward judgment of your self-expression, because everything, as I've just explained, this whole process happens naturally, and your response is natural. So, what I want, what is the intent of this video for today at least, is for you to stop judging your huge emotionally intense reactions. I know that will be hard and it won't happen in one day, but it can happen. I want you to try to remember what I've just talked about and have a little compassion, at least a little, and understanding of where this came from. And I want you to validate to yourself that this is the best that you could do in a given situation. I want you to accept that you are doing your best. And this is difficult when other people are judging you, when people are dismissing you, where people are rejecting you because you are too much for them. So I want to talk a little bit about those other people. And those other people are not as self-aware as you. Thank you for the likes. And the whole point is that whether you want it or not, you're actually an emotional leader. Even though it seems like you are chained to, like, you know, like a shame stick, you know, for everybody to point and say, look at this overreacting, immature, you know, horrible, emotionally intense person. It's so easy to do that and not to look within. So I want you to also know that all those people who are judging you for your emotional overreaction or your emotional intensity are, number one, not aware of their own emotions. If they would be aware of their own emotions, they would validate yours. Because the people who are in touch with their own emotions don't have the need to judge others. So everyone else in this world is basically lagging behind you. And I know that how the picture looks now doesn't seem like that. But I want you to take yourself as an emotional leader. So for one, I want you to stop judging yourself. I want you to not think about how people are reacting to you. And if they react in a negative way, I want you to just understand that that is because they are not aware or they are not comfortable with their own emotions. Otherwise, they wouldn't judge yours. So no shame, no judgment, no beating of yourself, no self-beating. Like, try to erase that kind of space within you. And what else do I want to say? I think this is enough for today, because I want to end on a positive note, because I feel that the only way, this is as a coach and as a person who has been involved in, you know, self-development and therapy of my own and with other people for over 20 years, the only way a sustainable change happens is when we do it from a space of love. So from a space of love of what is difficult for us to accept within ourselves. That is the only time an improvement will happen effortlessly, because you would have acknowledged a part of yourself that you have been rejecting. And that brings wholeness to who you are. And your soul's journey is towards wholeness. So the more of your emotions you can accept and learn to process, the more whole and happy and fulfilled you will feel. And I'll talk in following videos about how to process emotions, what to do in regards to relating to people who trigger us, etc. So if you have any questions, I love to hear them. If you have any comments, if you have any dislikes of what I've talked about, I really welcome any form of your self-expression, because I want to validate it. That is something that this group is completely dedicated to. Validation of all human emotion as complete gifts and as pathways to incredible insight and power that I know all of you possess within you. So, big kiss, and I'll be talking to you soon. And please check out the video about the contest that I have, where you can win 2 free coaching sessions with me if you are the winner of the most invited people to the group. So I want to grow this group and have as many emotionally intense people who want to grow and change be a part of this group. So do check that video out, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye. Bye, Catherine.